Welcome to the Deep Dive. Now, this week, you've sent over something I think is genuinely fascinating. It's not a history book, with that perfect 2020 hindsight.
Not at all.
It's a collection of articles from The Economist, all published during, the pivotal year of 1945, a proper time capsule.
It really is.
So, our mission today is to try and experience that year as it was actually lived, to see the end of the Second World War unfold not as a settled story, but with all the raw uncertainty and anxiety of the moment.
And that perspective completely changes how you understand the year. We have this inherited memory of 1945 as a year of victory parades and unambiguous triumph.
Yes, absolutely.
The real pressing question in these pages was whether the Grand Alliance could even survive its own success.
Okay, let's unpack this because that's a powerful starting point. This first article you've sent, from just before the new year, December 1944, really throws you in at the deep end.
It does.
It's titled Noble Negatives, and it paints a picture of a seriously frayed relationship between Britain and the United States. I was expecting a sort of stiff upper lip, all in it together tone, but this is something else.
It's astonishingly blunt, isn't it? It documents what it calls a violent and sustained campaign of American criticism against Britain. The list of complaints is long.
What sort of things?
That Britain is trying to steal a march on post-war trade, that it isn't fighting the Japanese properly, that it's being imperialistic in Greece and Italy. The writer notes, with some weariness, that Britons are being accused of spending half their time imitating Lord North and the other half aping Dr. Schacht.
Wow, that's quite a charge, and the sense of hypocrisy just burns through the page.
It really does.
The writer pushes back, pointing out that criticism of Britain's war effort is coming from a nation that was, and I quote, practicing cash and carry during the Battle of Britain.
The hypocrisy, it's just laid bare.
It is, or that complaints about British spheres of influence are a bit rich.
From the country that invented the Monroe Doctrine. Exactly.
And it builds to this incredible hard-nosed conclusion that Britain's policy of appeasement towards America has to end. And it culminates in that killer line you pointed out, that from now on, the only safe terms must be cash on delivery. So this isn't just public grumbling. No, this is a reflection of a serious debate. It's asking a fundamental question. How much can Britain gamble its future security on the goodwill of an often critical and, from their perspective, unreliable ally? It sets the stage for a very tense start to 1945. So with the political alliance already so strained, you'd be hoping for some good news from the front lines. But this next article from 6 January, Deadlock in Europe, suggests the absolute opposite.
The mood was bleak. The article states plainly that the year is opening gloomily.
And this is because of the German counteroffensive in the Ardennes.
Yes, the Rundstedt offensive. It had been a huge psychological shock. It completely shattered the assumption that the war in Europe was basically over. So you have a military deadlock and this crippling political disunity we've just been talking about.
And the article seems to suggest this isn't just bad for morale, it's actively prolonging the war.
It makes that connection explicitly. The writer says that Goebbels' propaganda is successfully persuading enough Germans that the alliance is on the verge of collapse.
Giving them a reason to keep fighting.
Precisely. Hold on, and the enemy will tear itself apart. And a crucial point is made that the Allies' own failure to articulate clear, positive war aims for a post-Nazi Germany is actually strengthening enemy resistance.
They're giving them nothing to hope for from surrender.
Exactly, so they fight on.
At the same time, another major ally feels like it's been left out in the cold. You've highlighted an article from 20 January, Neglected Ally, which focuses on France. It sounds desperate.
It is. The correspondent paints a picture of a Paris that is freezing and hungry. Industry is at a standstill.
And why was that?
Well, the core argument is that it's a direct result of a catastrophic planning failure by the Allies. They had based all their logistics on the assumption the war would be over by Christmas 1944.
And because that was wrong?
Liberated France was left in a state of paralysis. It's a horrible irony. You're free, but there's no food, no work, no heat. The article mentions Frenchmen wanting to join the fight, but being told there's simply nothing for them.
So with this backdrop of disunity, stalemate and frustration, the pressure must have been immense on the Big Three to sort this mess out.
Which takes us directly to Yalta in February.
Right. On the surface, the agreement that came out of it sounds like a big step forward. This idea of joint responsibility for liberated Europe. Was it seen that way at the time?
It was certainly presented as a breakthrough. In theory, it put an end to the informal spheres of influence idea. But if you read the analysis in The Economist, they are deeply skeptical.
Why is that?
The whole thing hinges on the interpretation of words like democratic and free elections, words that meant very different things in Washington, London, and, well, Moscow.
So the machinery for collaboration was put in place, but there was no real agreement on how to actually use it.
That's the core of the critique. The writer notes that the real test would be Poland. Would genuinely free, messy, and probably anti-Soviet political parties be allowed to contest for power?
And the article isn't optimistic.
It's hopeful, but it's a hope laced with a very heavy dose of realism. It sees all the linguistic loopholes the Soviets could, and ultimately would, exploit.
And as this fragile political process gets underway, the military vice is finally closing on Germany. By early May, the tone shifts dramatically. You set this piece, Gangster's End. It's not triumphant at all.
No, the language is extraordinary. It calls the regime's collapse an indescribably sordid welter of blood and betrayal.
There's a real sense of weariness, isn't there?
A profound sense. A feeling that after 6 long years of struggle, the actual moment of victory is bound to feel like an anticlimax.
There's a fascinating bit in there about Britain's specific contribution to the war, quoting Stalin.
Yes, it's a remarkable distinction. Stalin apparently said that Russia gave its blood, America provided its material wealth, while Britain's unique contribution was time.
By standing alone in 1940.
Exactly. Britain bought the time needed for the Grand Alliance to form and for its overwhelming power to be brought to bear. It's a poignant acknowledgement.
Then, after the official surrender, a piece from 12 May called Ancient Sacrifice tries to capture the mood in Britain, and it's not street parties and celebration.
It's far more sombre. It's a mix of thankfulness for survival, remembrance for the dead, and this deep overriding concern for the soldiers who would now be coming home.
It talks about these men who have spent 5 years in the trade of death.
And must now somehow find their way back into a civilian world that will feel completely alien to them. It calls for the nation to show moral courage and mental sacrifice in peacetime to match the physical courage of the soldiers.
That's a powerful thought that feels incredibly modern, actually.
It really does. It ends with this stark warning that if these returning men are allowed to become an army of unemployed or of misfits, the fault will lie with society, not with them.
All this high-level talk is one thing, but you've also sent these incredible eyewitness accounts from defeated Germany, written in June. They paint an absolutely astonishing picture.
They really do. The correspondent says the country's entire national existence seems to have just dissolved into nothingness. Daily life is completely atomized.
And he describes a nation in an orgy of humiliation and sauve qui peut, every man for himself.
Yes, total chaos. And what's so psychologically striking is that he reports most Germans he speaks to see themselves purely as victims of Nazism, not accomplices.
That quickly.
Almost overnight, he notes that in Munich, the capital of the movement, it's almost impossible to find anyone who will admit to ever having been a convinced Nazi.
I was completely struck by that other piece, Bavarian Roads. The imagery is just haunting. Can you just walk us through what he saw?
It's a literary snapshot of an entire continent in flux. He describes the roads as a cross-section of Europe's chaos.
So you have victorious American convoys.
Rolling right past disciplined, surrendered Wehrmacht convoys. A survivor from a concentration camp, still in his striped uniform, trudges past an SS officer who is somehow still in possession of a car.
It's just unbelievable.
It is. You have Czechs and Russians heading east, while expelled ethnic Germans are forced west. It's the entire human cost of the war, laid bare on a single stretch of road.
A single road containing the victors, the vanquished, the victims, and the perpetrators, all just moving past each other.
It's an unforgettable image. It captures the mass displacement and the moral chaos of the moment in a way statistics never could.
And in the middle of all this on-the-ground chaos, the world's leaders are in San Francisco trying to build the United Nations. But the tone of the article analysing the UN Charter isn't very idealistic.
No, it's incredibly sober. The article, The New Charter, draws a stark contrast with the messianic hope that accompanied the founding of the old League of Nations. This time, the mood is one of cold realism.
And what's the core of this realist take?
The analysis is that the UN Charter doesn't even pretend to abolish power politics. Instead, it's designed as a machine to manage it.
So it puts all the real power with the great powers.
Exactly. The permanent members of the Security Council, they are in effect above the law because they are the wielders of the power behind the law.
So it's not seen as an alternative to great power politics, but a recognition of it.
And the article suggests that this lack of idealism might, paradoxically, be its greatest strength.
So they're building this new world order based on the existing power of the great nations. And then, in August, an entirely new, almost unimaginable kind of power enters the world.
Yes, the 11 August article on the dropping of the atomic bomb. And the tone, right from the first sentence, is one of awe and terror, not celebration.
How does it describe it?
It's immediately called one more, the largest and most terrible of the horrors of war.
And what's amazing is how quickly the writer pivots from its use as a weapon to its future implications.
The thinking is incredibly rapid. A crucial question is posed in that very same article. It asks whether even a fraction of the immense resources spent on creating the bomb as a weapon will now be dedicated to making its discovery constructive for humanity.
A question we're still asking.
Absolutely. It's a profound question about the priorities of this new atomic age being asked in the very week of its birth.
And this final article, Victory in the East, reports on Japan's surrender. It feels like the final page of the story, but it's already looking ahead.
Completely. It states bluntly that the bomb may have stopped this war, but in doing so, it started a new age in human history in which the issue of peace and war is literally the issue of extermination or survival.
No relief then, just the recognition of a new, permanent existential threat. And it suggests the peacemaking in Asia will be just as difficult as in Europe, if not more so. The terms for Japan are seen as more sensible than for Germany. But a new crisis is already clearly visible. A brewing civil war in China, complicated by Russia's strategic ambitions in Manchuria. So you see it right there on the page.
The end of the Second World War is simply the opening act of the Cold War.
So having spent this time immersed in 1945 through these contemporary reports, how has it changed your understanding of that year? For me, the simple narrative of the good war ending in a clear victory has completely dissolved.
I agree. You see a world that wasn't celebrating, but was deeply anxious. An alliance that wasn't united, but was riddled with suspicion. A victory that for so many felt less like elation and more like a weary, welcome anticlimax.
You realize 1945 wasn't an ending at all.
It was a chaotic, violent, and profoundly uncertain beginning. All the things that would define the next 50 years were being born in that moment. The dawn of the atomic age, the framework of the Cold War, the painful reordering of entire continents.
And these writers were seeing it happen in real time.
They were, and they were grappling with the same fundamental questions about power, ideology, and survival that we are still grappling with today. It shows that the end of a great conflict doesn't provide answers. It just raises a whole new, more complicated set of questions. The final thought we want to leave you with is this. These writers for The Economist were trying to make sense of their world as it was being violently reshaped right in front of them. It really makes you wonder, what tectonic shifts are happening right now in our own time that we, with all our 24-hour news and instant information, might be failing to fully comprehend?